This is just a view of my room. Today is transplant day. For, well, not transplant day, for a stem cell transplant. Um, it all started way back in the beginning of the month, September 3rd. Here's my binder of everything that's been taking place. As you can see, it's a lot. There's been a couple of days of breaks. For the most part, it's been a lengthy process, but a very good one here at the Mayo Clinic. Um, so today is I was admitted yesterday, day D2 as they call it, and I got the high dose chemotherapy. And so that was interesting because I had to actually move ice around my mouth for about 2 hours, 30 minutes before, an hour during the chemotherapy, and 30 minutes later after that. So I was eating about 4 cups of ice, moving it around to prevent mouth sores, like I said earlier, and also um, popsicles, anything to keep the vessels cool because you don't want to have mouth sores while you're going through a stem cell transplant. And and then after that, today is September 18th, so this is a rest day for me. So basically, I've literally been resting in my room. I don't have any visitors today. I kind of don't want any visitors today because it just allowed me to relax and rest. My husband was here yesterday as I got admitted, and he was on the board to kind of like read and study. So that was really good. I have about 5 books with me, and they're either self-help books, of course, something that's spiritually based, soul work books. So I have time to my goal is to knock out these 5 books while I'm here. Of course, I had to bring the Anita Hill book, The Guardian Within. It's been a really good book, so I have it on Audible, but I'm going to be doing Audible and reading and highlighting in the book now that I have a little bit more time. Um, Tomorrow is the 19th of September, and that's going to be my transplant day. And that is going to start off with a awesome gonna have the chaplain here tomorrow, so that he's gonna be doing a blessing of my stem cells that will be coming back to me. I harvested my stem cells last week. Last Wednesday and Thursday, we collected about 64 million stem cells from my body. And so those stem cells are going to be coming back. The chemotherapy that I took yesterday was to go into my body and wipe everything out that was left behind the chemotherapy that I recently ended in awesome in August. And it basically is to kill anything that's left behind. So they will treat my stem cells that have already been taken out and put them back in. And so once everything comes back in, I'll be under watch and care for the next 100 days. I'll be in the hospital until October 3rd. And that's when I'll be discharged unless I am improving and I'm taking everything in, not in stride, but everything that is going through my body, I'm able to take that before I can go home. So even with the stem cell collection, I had to have a transfusion of plasma, not plasma, what was it, platelets, because my platelets ended up being low, and I had a catheter in my neck, and because my numbers were under 50, I had to have a transplant. So it's expected from the doctors that I will need to have like blood transfusion, magnesium, any kind of fluids to help me during this process. And so I am I'm on a journey, and it's one day at a time. I went through chemotherapy for 4 months, and it was a breeze for me. I really didn't have any side effects. But going through the transplant, there will be tons of side effects. I'm not really too worried about it. As I said, I'm just taking everything one day at a time, and then we'll go from there. And then whenever I am home, I'll be able to kind of like rest and recover, because when you're in a hospital, you have tons and tons of people coming in checking in on you. Yesterday I had the IV hooked up to me, so I had to constantly go to the restroom because they were putting fluids in me. So that was a lot. Um, and I mean, you're at a hospital. People are coming in and they're going to be checking on you, checking your vitals, checking your weight, checking just everything, just to make sure that if anything happened, they already had a foundation of how I was. And so each day they check my weight just to make sure I'm not losing a lot of weight, or unless I'm gaining from whatever it is. Maybe there could be swelling. And so today I had a little bit of swelling in my feet. So and I hadn't had that in a while. So gave me some Lasix to try to get that fluid down. But I said I was gonna share my journey with others because living with multiple myeloma is life changing. It's a long process. I started back in 2014 with it, where I basically was smoldering, and in September my numbers started going up, and then this was in March, that's when it was 60% of my plasma cells. So then at that point, we really have to treat and go through the process. And because I was already prepared for this process, I've done bone marrow drive, so I know what it takes with stem cell transplant. But it doesn't minimize that it is still an overwhelming process that you really have to go through. It's a very serious process. And so I was kind of aware. I was going to the Multiple Myeloma Association conferences, getting educated, even though I wasn't at the phase where I needed to be treated. So when my doctor hit me with the news, I was yet surprised, but it didn't affect me to the point where I didn't know what the treatment plan was going to be. I knew I was going to use 3 drugs from the last time I looked, but then I ended up having to take 4 drugs. So 2 in the stomach and 2 by mouth. And so I took very well to the treatment, and here I am. The plan was 4 rounds of chemotherapy, and then you have your stem cell transplant. And then you go home and you recover. You have to get all your immunization shots all over again because the high dose chemotherapy that I took yesterday just wiped all of my immunity out. And so I'm like a baby, and so I got a good support system. The folks around me, they wear their mask, and even when I was in public going places, I was still wearing a mask. Now this is kind of sad because society, they look at you with the mask on. They don't really understand big picture, but it's to protect us, especially people that are immune compromised, and there shouldn't be no judgment, because they really don't even understand the things that they're breathing in. Um, so after today, even though I will wear a mask, I would still have to wear my mask outside too because of the airborne things that are in the air, the pollution. I mean, a common cold can really take me out. Um, so I would say to anyone that's actually watching this video that give people grace and less judgment, because you really don't know what they're going through and why they are actually operating the way that they are operating. And so for me, my family even wear a mask when they're around me. And if they're sick, they know not to come around to the house and visit. We could do everything on video if we need to talk. But so rewind, 4 rounds of treatment, stem cell transplant, and then after treatment of the stem cell transplant, I will more than likely be on maintenance, be on maintenance until whatever. But one day at a time, I'm taking things in stride. This is one video of many, and I said that I was going to track my journey going through the stem cell transplant process, especially for people in the African community, because there is a lack of awareness, and also just understanding how aggressive multiple myeloma is in African Americans. And it's very critical. So maybe you don't have it, maybe you know somebody that may have it, but it's 3 different phases when it comes down to multiple myeloma. There's MGUS, and then there is smoldering, and then there's active multiple myeloma. And so I've gone through all 3 of those phases. And even when you have MGUS, if your doctor's not checking your labs on a regular basis, they don't know to look for that. And it sits there in your marrow, and it really doesn't affect you. And then I smoldered for 10 years, and I really didn't have any I didn't meet any of the criteria except for anemia, and that was the only thing that was affecting me. So I was continuing to live with my multiple myeloma in my body, but it wasn't affecting me, and it didn't start affecting me until September of 2023. And so here we are in September, after I had a bone marrow biopsy last September. And that's what was kicking things off for us to continue to watching and watching. And then also the best thing is to have the best doctors, best facility, the top doctors in that multiple myeloma field. I recommend not going to an oncologist that just specializes in all. I need one that specializes in multiple myeloma all day long. And this is what you function in, because that's more beneficial to me, because they're going to stay on top of what's new, what's treatable. But you also have to be your own advocate. And I believe if I wasn't my own advocate, I would probably overwhelm to the 10th power in the stem cell transplant process, because it is overwhelming. Here's my binder again. This is the binder that they gave me, and it's a whole bunch of things. It's loaded on the inside with everything that you need to know in regards to going through the treatment. I'm gonna actually flip it right quick. As you can see, I got my feelings, my word puzzle, and my book. But this literally is been my schedule from Labor Day. And so as you can see, this was the first time we had a break, and we were driving back and forth to the hospital, and you're talking about 45 minutes to an hour. And so here we are today. Today's my rest day. Tomorrow's my transplant day. And then my families, they also have to do like a caregiver class. So they really set you up for success. And then this is when I'm due to be discharged. And then also outpatient follow-up. And that will basically be all the way up until the 17th when I see my doctor again. And like I said earlier, you will pretty much be coming back to the hospital every 2 to maybe 1 to 2 days. And then they provide me with point of contacts. I got the chaplain as well. And then everything that I needed to go through with my transplant coordinator, we went through. To evaluation workup, I mean, all the way up to collecting your bone marrow, which you have to do the whole process. So it's no big surprise. So if you can't remember, and then also just an explanation of what bone marrow is and how everything starts from the red blood cells, white blood cells, and your platelets. Because when I did the collection, all 3 of those were coming out, and so that's how my platelets were, my numbers were low. This was the most freaking thing out for me, because I had to get a catheter in my neck, and that was very painful, and you are awake during that process. And then pre-admission to the hospital, I ended up having to get another catheter. Well, not a catheter, I can't even say it, catheter, but a PICC line. And so that's when they basically have that going up this way. It's easier to go through the right side. But so that's what I have right now in my arm, and that's how they take labs from me every morning. And that's where I had the high dose chemotherapy. And so in multiple myeloma, we go this way instead of putting a port, because when you put in a port in, that is only for maybe like one drug or one or two drugs. And with multiple myeloma, you have multiple treatments that they use for you. And then it's less invasive. And this was less painful than the other thing that I got. So tons of information on this transplant, clinic information, who's my team, resources if you want to connect with other people that are in the Facebook, the social media community that has gone through a stem cell transplant process. And then, of course, taking care of yourself in the back. So I kind of enjoy the process with Mayo because they basically been very informative. Tomorrow I will have it's like a ceremony blessing, a blessing over my stem cell transplants, where the chaplain will be here. He'll go over the Lord's Prayer with me. He's bringing his guitar, and we're also going to go over scriptures that I gave him and scriptures that he gave me. And so I love the faith-based hospital, because you're going to need some type of faith to get through this process. It's not something that um, you kind of need it. You kind of need it. So that is all I have. And actually, I didn't plan on being this long. I was only going to be on here for a few minutes to go over. And then I brought my journal. So it's always good to journal. And so during the stem cell transplant process, just my cancer journey, I said that I was going to kind of just document and educate other people on just what I went through. And everybody's body is different, but get you a journal, and that's how you can kind of release a lot of things that's on your mind, because I've dealt with anxiety through this process. I've had ups and downs where I was like, oh, my faith was tapped in, and then there were some times where I felt like shaking, and I was just like, oh my God, Lord, like, what's going on? Like, this is starting to be heavy. And you have family, and you're trying to figure out, like, how is life going to happen back home with the people that are there. And that was like the most thing that was stressing me out. And then I realized that I can't take care of myself and take care of everything else that happens in life. And that's where family and friends that you have to step up, because during this process, it literally takes a village. So until my next video, this is all I have for today. All right. Blessings to you. You have a great day.